Welcome, moviegoers. How are we doing? Good, good. Do you have your ticket? All right, what do we have here? Real Swell. Good choice. You're going to be in Auditorium 72. It's straight ahead and to the left. Enjoy. Law Abiding Citizen. This movie came out in 2009. It stars Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx. Gerard Butler plays a man named Clive. He is a husband, a father, a working man. He's living an unassuming life with his family, enjoying their time together. Nick is the assistant district attorney for New York, and he has a wife, he has a daughter himself, and he's a very accomplished lawyer. He is a very successful lawyer. And one thing that he prides himself on is his high conviction rate, which is in the mid to high 90s. And that becomes a big part of the story, actually. As Clive is visited upon by three perpetrators, and he is victim to a home invasion. A home invasion that turns into the murder of his wife and daughter, among other things. They leave him alive because after those criminal acts were done, they needed the ones who did it, they needed to leave. And it was too much to finish Clive off. And they were also sadistic psychopaths, so it didn't really bother them that he was still alive. Well, as time goes on, witnesses are spoken to, evidence is found and collected, and these men are caught and face trial. Nick, who is prosecuting the case, at some point realizes that he may not convict any of these three men. So he decides to make a deal with two of them to make sure that he secures at least one conviction. This doesn't sit well with Clive. He wants the men, all of them, to face justice for what they've done. He goes so far as to enact his own revenge plan to make sure that this justice is carried out. We learn that Clive isn't just an unassuming man. He used to work for a black ops division of the government where it was his job to eliminate targets very creatively in such a way that no one could tell they were the target of said elimination. We learn that he has a very particular skill set that allows him to not only carry out these missions, but to get away with it scot-free with no evidence. He turns that skill set on first the man who did get the conviction. He was going to be given a lethal injection, but Clive finds the supply chain for the chemicals that are going to be used. He gets some of them switched out to cause extreme pain and suffering for this man before he expires. This throws the entire case into chaos because they need to figure out what happened, because what happened was illegal by the standards of lethal injection. He also, Clive, finds one of the other men outside who isn't in jail, who was set free because of the deal that he made with Nick. He finds one of them and he murders him as well in a very creative way as well. He then sets himself up to be caught. He wanted to be arrested. He goes after the third man who broke into his house, killed his family. He takes him to a warehouse and tortures him. He severs some of his limbs, he cuts off his tongue, he mutilates this man. And he makes it this time so that there were enough breadcrumbs to lead the police and the investigation back to him because he wanted to be caught, because he wasn't doing this just to get justice on these two men. but he also needed the justice system itself to be taught a lesson. And he was going to do that from jail. So once he is arrested, he speaks with Nick, who is going to prosecute him now. And during the interrogation, during their conversations, their negotiations for confession and for a deal, Clive says to Nick, I've got another person who is going to die. I've buried him somewhere and he's got so much oxygen left. And you have until that time runs out to cut me a deal and set me free. The men who murdered my family needed justice. I got it. It was by means that should be acceptable to you because I'm going to give you something else in return to set me free. And that makes everything okay, right? If I testify that someone else's life is going to be saved, then you get to save mine. That's how this works. Well, Nick doesn't really believe him. And he says, I don't think that you're actually going to do this. But we're going to look into it. But you're going to sit in the cell until we figure out where this guy is. We'll find him and we'll save him. And then you'll continue to sit in jail and be prosecuted for not only the murders, but for also this attempted murder. Well, they don't reach this other man in time. He does, in fact, die. And Nick has to contemplate whether or not he should have made that deal when that's what he likes to do anyway. Or at least that's what Clive is framing this as. Clive is saying, if you really wanted me behind bars, if you really wanted this to stop, you would have just made a deal and saved that guy's life. Because previously, you made a deal, got your conviction. That's what you do. You make deals to get the things that you want. Well, why didn't you do that this time? But Clive isn't done. Clive gets himself put into solitary confinement because he has more targets within the justice system. He has others who he also needs to be examples so the justice system can be taught this lesson. We find out, though, that he puts himself in a very specific cell within solitary confinement. He knows a lot about this prison, so much that he has bought property on the side of the prison and has dug tunnels into the prison so that he could get in and out of his cell to set up his other elaborate traps and other elaborate killings of these members of the justice system. Now, I've described all of that as far as his plans, his means of getting in and out of the prison, putting himself in solitary confinement on purpose. I was able to tell you that because of how the movie kind of turns left on it, or for me anyway. It stops making sense around the third act of the movie because Nick and his legal assistant, they become Batman level detectives, and they are able to dig up all of this information on Clive about his past, about his work history, about his skill set, the things that he can do, is capable of. They find his financial records. They are the ones who are able to find out he bought that property. They are the ones who figure out that there are tunnels leading from that property to the jail. They are able to figure out everything about Clive, even though the movie made a very specific effort to tell us he doesn't get caught when doing these kinds of things. And if he wants you to know that he did it, that's the only way you will know that he did it. But they find out anyway. Now, the confrontation between Nick and Clive is this. Clive has to figure out how to continue his plan, even though Nick knows. Because he wasn't anticipating that, because he shouldn't have. The movie went way out of its way to tell us that that's not possible. So Nick is clashing with Clive, saying, the jig is up. I know what you're trying to do. I know who your next targets are. I know that you've got this passage in and out of the jail. it's over. Just cut all of this out. Please stop murdering all of these people. Confess to what you've done, and so that we can end this. I'm not sure what punishment you're trying to deliver or what message you're trying to send, but it's irrelevant now because this isn't how you go about it. But Clive is still under the impression that Nick hasn't changed, that the justice system hasn't changed. He says, "Why would I stop? Once I stop, there's going to be another person like me. There's going to be another person who commits a crime. You haven't shown me anything that tells me you're done making deals with monsters. You're still trying to convince me to stop. There is a way to stop me, put me down, but you're still leaving this door open for us to make a deal. So if you reduce my sentence, let me off easy, then sure, I'll stop. Because you say that you can stop me. You say you know what my plans are, but I feel uninterrupted. So I'm going to continue doing this." Well, Clive's coup de grace is he wants to blow up one of the court buildings. He's going to do it from his cell because he will plant that explosive at this court building as he is in and out of the prison through his tunnel system. He is at the court system or the courthouse and he drops a briefcase in one of the rooms. And this is where the movie just stops making sense completely because he drops the suitcase in this empty room under a bench. The specific place where he put this suitcase is visible. You can see from any viewpoint in the courthouse that there's this briefcase here. Anyone could walk in and see, oh, there's a briefcase there. That's weird. He didn't try to hide it, not even a little bit. Well, through the detective work of Nick and his legal assistant, they realize, okay, so he's targeting this courthouse. Let's walk into the very room where this briefcase is and pick it up and move it. This is a bomb that's ticking, by the way. So not only did they find where his next target was, not only did they just walk into the room that has the briefcase in it, they did it all within the time allotted before the briefcase or the bomb exploded. Sure. Nick delivers this briefcase back to Clive's cell. Let me say that again. Nick, an ADA, a lawyer, takes this briefcase, drives it in his car to the penitentiary, however long that distance is, without it blowing up, without alerting the bomb squad and letting them defuse it. He just takes it and he goes to Clive's cell while Clive is out and puts the briefcase under the bench within Clive's cell. And as Clive is coming back from wherever he was, setting up his other trap or his other plan, Nick is leaving the cell. And he has this gotcha moment with Clive that this ends now. It's over. Your bomb is under your seat right there. There's no lesson to be learned here. The justice system isn't broken, but I will say that I'm not making a deal with you because you are going to die right here, right now, and I don't have to worry about this anymore. And Clive just accepts that, sits down on the bench, opens up a locket that he has with his wife and daughter's picture in it, and as if he's going to meet them, just accepts that the bomb is exploding. And to top it all off, Nick just runs out of the penitentiary as the bomb is exploding. Now, Clive's cell is in the solitary confinement wing or area of this prison. And of course, I don't know how prisons are constructed. I don't know where those particular cells are, but the movie made it seem like he's underground. But Nick is able to not only find the staircase that leads to the surface, but also then runs out of the jail building itself. And as he's running out of it, the flames and the explosion are what 50 feet behind him, and he's running away from it like he's some action hero or something. And every time I watch this movie, I've seen it a few times because up until the third act, the movie's great. I really like the movie. But the end of it makes zero sense to me. It makes zero sense how just on a dime, everything that they've built Clive up to be, they just undo it just so he doesn't go on forever. Because that is a scary thing to have audiences sit with, I guess. In 2009, that was probably a scary thing to have audiences sit with. The antagonist perpetrating such a heinous act and having no one there to be able to stop them. Like he was literally a Lex Luthor kind of villain in this movie. And it was actually really interesting. Now, I don't mind if he had been stopped, but the way that they stopped him didn't make any sense for the story they were telling, for the character that they built throughout the movie up to that point. I've always felt as though the movie was just afraid to let him win in case it was some kind of commentary on the actual justice system. And I mean, whether or not that's the case, it's still just fiction. It's still just a movie. I don't think it was based on or inspired by actual events. I mean, it's probably inspired by the idea of the justice system and how those kinds of things do happen. But I don't think someone thought of something specifically and was like, oh, let's make a movie about it. It was just an original concept. It was just an original story that was fairly interesting to me, anyway. I think that the acting was done well. The script was pretty good up until the last 45 minutes, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. It wasn't a bad movie, but they switched off what made Clive's character so intriguing. They just switched it off. I mean, it wasn't even a slow burn. They just said, "Oh, now we can't have this anymore. Stop. We now know everything about you, and we're going to stop you from doing whatever it is you're doing." And it was weird. Every time I think about it, I just get almost annoyed that they couldn't write a different ending, a more fleshed out ending, instead of again flipping the switch and saying, "Just kidding. He's a bad guy. Let's just kill him." And it didn't really reconcile the message it was trying to tell or trying to give. And I don't know, it was weird to me. It was weird, it still is. And again, every time I see the movie, I think, no, why would you rob this character of this catharsis? And they again, that him sitting on the bench with the locket looking at his family, it was like he was on this noble journey and he found some semblance in what he was doing by what he had already done, and he could be satisfied with having been stopped. But I didn't see or feel any of that satisfaction because, more importantly, he needed the justice system to do better, to be better. But the movie didn't give you that part of it. So, what was he satisfied with? Was he just tired and didn't want to live anymore anyway? That's possible, but that's not the sense of the character they gave either. So what was your ending supposed to be? Why did you end it that way? Hmm. Yeah, it was very strange. And I don't know why they ended it that way. I will never understand. Thank you for coming to this screening of Real Swell. I hope you enjoyed. As you head out, I've got three things to ask of you. Number one, pick up your trash. These ushers don't get paid enough. Number two, make sure you are following so you don't miss the next screening. And number three, hit that heart for me. I'll see you all next time. Make sure you've got your ticket.